Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media, allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Yep. It's the day after the disastrous State of the Union address. We're going to get through it. As usual, we can always count on Congressman Al Green to go ahead and give the necessary protest. In this case, he protested the racism by Donald Trump in vivid color. He said he wanted to do it in his space. So what did I do? I went up and I called him up and I said, can you give me an interview, please? I want to hear what it was like down there at where it actually happened. And he obliged. So that's going to be the first interview, the first video that we do today. But beforehand, want to go ahead and salute all our great, wonderful people in the chat. Remember, we missed the first few dozen in Substack, but we got Laura Gilmore, Sarah Lapi, Willis Calwood, Joe from Los Angeles, California, Margaret Ryan, Nancy Hyde, Lisa Jane B. in North Carolina, Margaret Ryan, I think I called you out already, Stuart Cohen. We also have Judy and Dean Oberala. ¿Cómo estás, mis amigos favoritos? Thank you for being here. I got Al Green coming up in a few seconds. You're going to like this interview with Al Green. Anyway, let's go ahead and say, Lisa JK, welcome. GK, welcome aboard. On our other chat, which I don't have brought up yet, let's go ahead and see what we got here. Dobbs in Lee the Bearcat is in from Austin, Texas. AVQ listening in as well from Brooklyn, New York. We got Eric from Kingwood, Atascocita. And the audio is bad. What do you mean the audio is bad? You don't understand me at all? I hope it's getting better. Is it any better? Or let me know. I hope it's getting better. What's wrong with the audio? Please let me know if there's something wrong with the audio so that I can fix it. I don't hear anything bad with the audio, so let me know. Respond, please. All right. Anyhow, folks, let's go ahead and play. But at the start, it sounded like you were underwater. Okay, I don't want to be underwater. Anyway, folks, I'll get to your comments in a little bit. Let's go ahead and play Al. It was a great interview. And let me go ahead and set that up right now. Para ver, lo vamos a comenzar ahorita mismo. Get that all together. We got that. Make sure that I'm mapped because, the last time on KPFT 90.1 this morning, I had some mapping issues. Let's do it now. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Congressman Al Green has never been one to sit quietly in the face of injustice. Representing Texas 9th Congressional District and now running in the redrawn 18th, he once again made national headlines after being escorted out of last night's State of the Union address for directly challenging the president's racist characterization of former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama. Today, he joins us to discuss accountability, representation, and what moral courage looks like in this political moment. Welcome to Politics Done Right, Senor Congressman Al Green. How you doing this afternoon, sir?
Muy bien, dear brother. And let me also say this. I appreciate you saying racism because for some reason, that word is no longer a part of our vocabulary when we talk about the problem that afflicts people of color. We cannot say racism because if you do, you may not be invited back to the television networks because they've completely decided that this is not an issue. But I treat racism the same way I treat anti-Semitism. I think anti-Semitism should be obliterated, and I think racism should be too. And I don't think that it's wrong to say racism is still alive and well in this country and has to be addressed.
I'm going to say this. That is the difference between mainstream media, corporate media, and independent media. We give the people what the people really need to hear and what's really happening, not something that has to go through filter. So thank you for stating that. Last night, you were escorted out after confronting the president over his remarks about President Obama and Michelle Obama. We were. And what compelled you to act again in that moment and not remain silent?
Well, this time it was with intentionality. On the prior occasion, it was spontaneity. The intentionality developed as I completely studied this. I didn't just take it lightly. I conferred with my staff about it. I talked to friends about it. And everybody agrees that this was egregious and it's something that should be addressed. The question became, how do you address it? So after conferring, I concluded that the best way would be to confront the president face to face in his personal space, with my personal space coinciding with his personal space. This is why I positioned myself along the aisle so that when he came by, he could not avoid having me call this to his attention. And I did. I pulled out my signage and I flashed it to him and told him that Black people aren't apes. And he looked and it almost jarred him, it seems. And he quickly started to move away briskly. And then others tried to take my signage from me. So I maintained it. It was slightly damaged. And I stood before the House and I held up my signage in silent protest. Silent protest. If there was a disturbance, I didn't create it. It was the people who refused to allow me to engage in peaceful, silent protest, which is what happens at a good many peaceful protest movements. Other people become disruptive and the peaceful protesters are blamed for the disruption. I refuse to take the blame for this. If I have to suffer consequences, I will. But it was the disruptors on the other side that created the disruption that everybody had an opportunity to see live on television.
Well, you know what was interesting is they tried to avoid showing the president's interaction with that. And that is where I talk about the way that the media has been trying to shelter this person, if you will. Now, and it is very disconcerting. Now, you've been known to be considered.
But may I address that, please?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Let me address that because you're eminently correct. Morning Joe. I call names, by the way.
Right. And that's
Morning
good.
Joe. Morning Joe. They showed the president's entry. They showed him come down the aisle. And they clipped that portion out such that he went right on up. And it is as though it was never part of history. This is how history is rewritten, how it is not completely written, how history is distorted. This happened on MS Now this morning. When I looked at it, I was amazed that they would do this, but I shouldn't be because it's done quite often.
You know, and it's been done. And I think that is one of the reasons we need heroes. We need people that are not scared to use the word racism, people that are not scared to say, no, the president did this and not cater how you are going to express things. You have to have the courage to do it. You've been known as the conscience of the Congress for that reason. Do you believe? Because some would say, oh, that creates division. How comes you confronting that which is divisive actually creates division? Tell me, please.
Well, here's what's ironic. Those same people did not, for the most part, criticize the president when he called members of Congress lunatics from the floor of the House of Representatives at the joint session of Congress. So the president engages in this discourse, this demeaning discourse, such that he would call people persons of low IQ. He tells people that they should go back to some place that they've never come from. It's remarkable how he does all these things. But if you have a counterforce, for every action, there's this equal and opposite reaction. So when you engage with the equal and opposite reaction for good, to counter what he's doing for bad or ill intentionality, then somehow you are creating the problem by doing this. And I suppose what people are saying, just suffer through it. You'll be okay. Yeah. Well, I don't choose to do that. I don't do that.
That is exactly what you're saying. And what we actually need, sir, are people who are leaders that actually spines up others to do it, because that is what we're having. That's why the Republican Congress allows him to do as they please. Nobody is spining up to do what's necessary. I love to see what you do out there. Now, going into your race, the redistricting that places you in District 18 significantly reshapes your constituency. How do you see the political and demographic changes influencing your campaign and legislative priorities?
Well, the gravamen of the circumstance is this. Republicans have resorted to a new paradigm. In this paradigm, they no longer try to take me out when there's a Republican in the race against me in the general election. They come at me in the primary, and they come at me with $1.5 million. There was an article first published in the New York Times on February the 12th. It explained how this crypto entity was going to spend this $1.5 million against me because I have expressed my concerns about what they're trying to accomplish with cryptocurrency. And I've expressed it because they don't want any regulations at all. And the thing that crypto is best used for now is transferring illicit funds. If you want to get some money to someone and it's somehow tainted, then you can do it directly from one person to another without going through what we call a central bank, as you would with the American dollar. Well, when this happens, my dear brother, what we're doing is making it possible for people to do some dastardly deeds with the money they need, and they may be doing it in other places or they may be doing it here. So I am very much concerned about how it's going to impact this, but I'm also concerned about how it will impact the American dollar. The American dollar is the preferred currency around the world. It's the reserve currency. If it is replaced with something else, we will pay more when we borrow money from other countries, and we borrow a lot of money from China. We will pay more for the money we borrow. The dollar will not be as prominent, and it cannot be used to help this nation the way it has been, sometimes not for the best of reasons, to be very honest, but I still want to preserve its preeminence. Well, these people are antithetical to my thoughts, and as a result, they graded me and they graded my opponent. My opponent got an A, and when he got that A, the floodgates opened for dollars to pour into the campaign against me. And that's what they're doing. One, inundating the airways with messages about how great my opponent is, and not understanding, I suppose they do understand that in doing this, they're putting a person in a position to do something that is not going to be beneficial to any of us. I have seniority. I have seniority such that I sit on the row right next to Maxine Waters. And as a result, I'm in line to move forward to the chairperson of a committee. But Maxine is a chair. I honor and respect her and would work with her. But my point to you is, you destroy seniority, and that's what's about to happen here with me and some others. When you destroy it, money will rule. And when money rules, we lose. Now, seniority is not a perfect system, but it is a lot better than saying the person who can raise the most money is going to be chair of the committee. That, my friend, will cause us to cater to the very wealthy at the expense of the persons who are extremely poor.
I want to make a mention right here that's very important, and this is just a narrative for our audience. Cryptocurrency is not real. Cryptocurrency, I think it's important for people to understand this. Cryptocurrency is the figment of the imagination of programmers, and it is backed by absolutely nothing. And that our president is involved with that, and that he's trying to monetize crypto with the US dollar by giving it a backing on the US dollar is it's disastrous, to put it bluntly. And we have to have people that are honest enough to come out and tell you that you're putting our country in danger if we have anything to do with crypto. Go look at the volatility of all the different forms of crypto, and you will understand what's going on. So please tell our audience exactly, if you are reelected, or well, I should say if you're elected to 18 because you're previously in 9. If you're elected to 18, this district that I guess is still about 75% your previous district, is that correct?
That's correct.
75% your previous. What's your intent for them?
Well, my intentionality has a multiplicity of facets associated with it. First of all, and I think and foremost, this is very important, we do have to deal with the invidious discrimination. We cannot continue to use terminology that is slightly indicative of what we're talking about. We've got to be very direct about it. So I plan to do that. I plan to also do something about affordability, but in a different way. What we're doing to a certain extent now is superficial, but I want to go to the root cause. I want to go to the root cause, which happens to be the fact that Black unemployment is usually almost twice that of white unemployment. Now, you can't say that we're not educated. You can't say that we don't know how to count, that we don't know how to do the various things that are required to have a job that pays us equal pay for equal work. And for it to consistently be twice that of white unemployment has to be dealt with. I believe that one of the ways you deal with that is to raise the minimum wage. And it can't be raised to $10 or $15 an hour, which is why I have legislation to raise it to $25 an hour. If you're going to work, you ought to earn a living wage. And work for me is having full-time employment. No one should work full-time and live at or near the poverty line. But there's bigger than that. And here is the centerpiece of my agenda as it relates to this aspect of my agenda. And it is that we have to stop the discrimination in lending. And whether we like it or not, we don't have the empirical evidence on an individual basis. But when I was the chairperson of oversight and investigations for the Financial Services Subcommittee, we discovered, and with clear and convincing evidence, that a Black person can go into the bank very well qualified and have to pay more for a loan, get terms that are onerous, and not get as much money as a white person who is less qualified. Now, people don't like to hear me say this, but it's just the truth. But Black people can't prove it because you don't know what the other guy received. Well, I have a piece of legislation that would do for the consumer what the banks already have in place for themselves. If you defraud the bank, you can go to jail for up to a year and be fined up to $1 million for defrauding the bank. But if the bank defrauds you of your loan, doesn't give you a loan that you're qualified for, there is no criminal penalty associated with that. You're going to have to file civil lawsuits and do all kinds of things to try to piece together something that would resemble justice. But we have a piece of legislation that passed the House of Representatives, by the way, that would make it a crime to deny you a loan that you're entitled to. And if we do this, we'll eliminate a lot of the invidious discrimination that takes place in lending. And when you do that, people can get the bootstraps that we are told we have to pull ourselves up by. The bootstraps over in the banks. Other people get their bootstraps from banks, and we're supposed to get our bootstraps from under the bed or somewhere in the house. Well, it doesn't work that way. It's got to work the same way for everybody. And that legislation would do it. And we pass it in the House. We couldn't pass it in the Senate, which is one of the reasons why I say my work is still to be done. These are some of the things, but at the very, very, surrounding all of this, I guess, encircling all of this, is the notion that we have to have a Department of Reconciliation to deal with reparations. 240 plus years of free labor, and people are benefiting from it to this day. The intergenerational wealth that was transferred along the way, that can't go unnoticed. I don't deny it in any way. I don't say that, well, you don't owe me anything. What you owe is justice. That's what you owe. And justice includes reparations for 240 years of free labor. These folk who were enslaved were the economic foundational mothers and fathers of the country. America would not be the rich country it is today, but for their having been enslaved, building the roads, the bridges, planting the seeds, harvesting the crops, and doing it for 240 years. This wasn't something that happened 20 or 30 years. It happened centuries. Children were born into slavery, lived their lives enslaved, and died enslaved. So these are the kinds of things that I deal with that a good many people don't find favor with.
It is important. Let me just say one thing, Congressman. Every drug on the market right now, they go through certain types of tests. They don't know exactly, they don't have the exact mechanism that it works within the cell, but we know that it works. If it quacks like a duck, if it say, I don't remember the term, that's exactly what it is. So when you say, well, you cannot really prove that discrimination stop loans or discrimination give you a higher rates and for car loans, etc. I beg to slightly object and say, no, I think it's a statement. What you made there was a statement of fact. Those are things that occurred. After all, I wrote a book called Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man, because I tell you, in business and in every other aspect of my life as a professional, and I imagine you've gone through the same thing as well as a congressman, those are absolute facts that we need not sit back and tone down. So thank you for saying that. And it is good to have somebody that is willing to go out there and say that.
Well, let me say this on that point, if I may. We proved it. Here's how you prove it, with something called paired testing.
Yes.
You get 3 people, all of whom can be equally qualified, or you can have the African American more qualified than the other 2. And the African American goes in and is rejected, and the 2 persons who are least qualified, who happen to be of a different hue, they get the loans. I mean, it can be proven. And the Congress that I am in now on the Republican side, they fight paired testing. They don't want to have that occur. They won't fund having fair testing take place. That's why my legislation is important, because we included their fair paired testing so that we can acquire the empirical evidence and show that the discrimination is taking place in lending, also in purchasing a home, purchasing a car. The car is probably the greatest example of it, because 2 people can go in, purchase the same car on the same day, and one person will pay more for that car than the other person simply because the dealership can get it out of the other person. And usually that's an African American.
Congressman, I've lived it. You've lived it. Congressman, I'm out of time, but I'd like to ask you to please tell me what you want to go out there and say right now.
I want people to know that what occurred last night was absolutely necessary, because we have to take a stand against this racism. If we do not stand against it, it can again rear its ugly head in ways that we thought we had put in the past forever. The clock can be rolled back. It really can. And we can find ourselves with someone saying, hey, I don't have to serve anybody that I don't want to serve in my restaurant. And the Commerce Clause, which brings this into play, this Supreme Court would say, well, maybe he's right. I don't believe this Supreme Court would give us a favorable ruling on Brown versus the Board of Education today. I don't believe it would. And so I just simply say to you, I think that we've got to fight racism. We have to do it openly and notoriously. We have to do it on the floor of the House of Representatives.
It has been my honor to have you. Thank you so kindly, Congressman, for once again being on Politics Done Right.
Thank you.
All right, tell me, can you hear me now? All right, I got to use my other microphone because something is happening here that I don't understand. Anyway, folks, we are back. We are back. We are back. We're back. We're back. All right. I want to answer something that AVQ put in there, because AVQ put something that's very important. He said, Egberto, all fiat currencies are backed by the faith of their users. Their value fluctuates on the market. So what's the real difference between a dollar and a Bitcoin? Look, I didn't say to outlaw Bitcoin. It is fine. Welcome aboard, Professora LBW. Thank you for being here. I didn't say to outlaw it. All I'm saying is buyer beware. In fact, I will never touch a Bitcoin, and I will never suggest that anybody touch a Bitcoin, because whereas the American dollar, while it's also fiat money, it's backed by the faith in the United States. I don't think anybody want to have faith in the tech bros. So if you want to see who backs the Bitcoin, and I know a lot of people are going to have an exception with what I say with regards to tech bros running the Bitcoin and also having, what is it called? The behind the scene, their blockchain, running it on the backside, etc. It makes no sense. Let me first tell you. When I studied whether, this stuff about mining Bitcoins based on an algorithm that has a finite amount, etc., I said, wait a minute. What happens if there's a bug in the algorithm? It's not based on anything. What happens if there's a bug? Then you're hosed. What happens if your token, you lose this supposed password, or somebody in the background does the same thing? You ain't got no money. People have to understand that this crypto stuff isn't magic. To put it all bluntly, like I told the congressman, the crypto is nothing but a fraud. That is me just coming out and creating my own fiat money. Will you buy it? Will you buy it? I don't think so. So no, I repeat what I said there. Crypto is a fraud, just like a whole lot of other things these people think up and then monetize. They run with the spoils, and the losers are the ones who stay up on until the end. I will never, ever justify having that sort of a system. All right, folks, there was one other thing that I got out of the Soto, the speech that he gave yesterday, and it had to do with what he had to say about tariff. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let me get it queued up. I think I have it queued up. Para ver dónde está. And then we'll take it on the other side. All right, here we go.
I must admit, watching the State of the Union was very, very painful. But you know what? There was one nugget that came out that I think was very, very important. First of all, let me tell you, 99.9% of everything that you heard were things that he bloviated about in his press conferences, as he spoke on Truth Social, etc. But here's the thing. We all know that most of what this president does is lie or misrepresent or hate or display an extreme sense of all the isms. But again, there was one important thing he said, and this has to do with his obsession with tariffs. And I'm going to tell you something. Last week, I was on We Decide with Jenna Flanagan on WBAI, and she asked the question, why is the president so obsessed with tariffs? I want to play that short snippet so that you can hear what I said. Then I'm going to let me play that, and then I'll get back to you.
Why do you think, I should say, that tariffs are so central to the president's agenda? I mean, it seems like one of the few things that he's really, really fixated on.
He wants to use the tariff as a cudgel, but also he wants to normalize these regressive taxes. In other words, we know that this is a sales tax. If people get used to having these regressive taxes, they can actually slowly get rid of the income tax, and his people, the billionaires, will be very happy because look how much you can collect by just saying it's like a VAT tax on what the Europeans use, a VAT tax on all the poor, all the Walmart shoppers, and everybody else. This is all from the bad book, Project 2025. These are very good things that these guys think about to get what they want. And that is, again, get rid of taxes for the wealthy. And I know it's cliche, but it is true. Now, so what I said is pretty much the president is trying to lay the groundwork for us to get rid of the income tax and have a tax on everybody. No progressive type tax, but a tax that simply everybody pays by buying products, period. And by the way, for this to work, right, you have to ensure, he always talked about, well, I tell you what, let me play what the president said, and then we'll come back.
And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love.
So there you go. The president fesses up. I want these tariffs so that ultimately I can get rid of the income tax. And he lies to you, telling you that it's these foreign companies and foreign countries that are paying the tax. No, it's not. It is you, America. Each of you, your tax rates just went through the roof because his idea is to get rid of the income tax and run it with these taxes. But it's predicated on something that every economist would have to tell you, and sadly, nobody said. You usually put tariffs on products to protect your industry and to allow more of that manufacturing that were tariffed back into your country. That's why you do it. And as that manufacture comes back to your country, that tariff goes away because, again, the manufacturing is occurring in your country. So the idea that you're going to use tariffs to eliminate income taxes makes no sense if the reason you told America you're putting tariffs on was to bring back industry to the United States. You don't want industry back in the United States because you want to tariff Americans so that you can get rid of the income tax. You see the hoodwink that he's trying to pull on America. Oh, tariffs are going to pay for taxes, and we want to eliminate the income tax by tariffs, and the foreigners are going to pay for it. It's all a lie. But that's the only thing that this State of the Union was worth watching for, to see exactly what is his obsession with tariffs. Everything else was just hogwash, theater, nothing more. Absolutely nada más. Nothing more, nothing more. Now, let me tell you, there was one part when he attacked the Somalis, right? And that was that I couldn't have listened to a more vile, racist thing when I heard him talk about the Somalis, But I'm going to tell you something, even more so than the president. Oh, you got an echo now?
I guess that's because it probably started working. All right, that probably left now. But more racist than the president proper, right, is what I heard by a CNN panel. I think I was on my spinner then. By then I think I was on my spinner, but I taped it real quick. No, I taped it. I didn't want to process it because I needed to go spin. I want you to listen to how two Republicans spoke about the Somali issue. I kind of cut it up because it would have been very, very long otherwise. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games.
I think the thing I think about is if the president were talking about any other part of the world, he said, people from France, we can't import them here because their culture is incompatible with us. Wouldn't that be something that people said was pretty far across the line?
I mean,
he's calling Somali people pirates based off of what exactly?
Well, there are pirates in Somalia.
Okay,
the only country left where piracy is a profession.
Hold on a second.
We're in America. You know how far Somalia is?
He said,
Halloween parties in Somalia is where you find pirates.
Hold on a second. He said the Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota.
Yeah.
So he's describing Somali people just in general as pirates because there happen to be pirates in Somalia?
He's calling people who are raiding Medicaid funds illegally pirates, which I think that's actually a pretty good metaphor for what it means to set up a fraudulent daycare center and take money from Medicaid illegally.
Okay, so you are aware that at least I was just going to say that one of the very, in fact, the first person,
woman,
the first person who was prosecuted,
citizen too,
citizen,
yeah.
Like,
but a pirate.
She should go to jail.
Is she a pirate? Yes.
Because he's literally saying that they're importing a culture of bribery, corruption, and lawlessness. Is that what's actually happening here, or are there individuals who are criminals and should be prosecuted? Is this an indictment on an entire culture of people?
He wants to make an indictment. He really hates Somalia. I think we can say that we can agree on that. He hates that place. I think he hates it partly because one of their citizens is in the United States Congress. Somebody who was born there is in the United States Congress, and infuriates him. He hates Somalia. You can feel it. It comes off of him. But the notion that the 66,000 people of Somali descent who live in Minnesota are responsible for what happened in the fraud cases is bigoted. It's racist. And I think that's what people sense.
But I also doubt he could even point Somalia out on a map.
Let's also be clear that the Somali population in Minnesota, a majority of them are Americans. So, I guess my question to you is, are you okay with the president painting with a broad brush an entire culture of people? Is that what we do as Americans?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, we did it to the Irish. We did it to the Sicilians. We're still doing it to black people.
You know what it's called, though?
All right.
This is what.
Let's put it on the table.
It is in law.
That's
and
all right,
and
Ken,
the word values is used. Look, I ran the legal immigration agency. This was supposed to be part of the vetting process.
So when we look back on American history and we look back at how Italian Americans and Catholics were treated and Jews were treated, you think that that's justified because culture is a valid reason to decide whether someone ought to have a chance to be an American or not?
No, and you've connected things that aren't connected.
How is that not connected?
So
our immigration system used to legally discriminate against Catholics, Italians, Jews, Irish, you name it.
I'm familiar.
Okay, under the guise of culture. You're saying it's fine for the Somalis. Is it fine for those groups of people too?
No. We're a Western nation. Our foundation is a Judeo-Christian Western civilization philosophy.
Built on slavery. Finish the sentence.
And indigenous land.
Those cultures fit in this country. And when I say fit, I mean values fit.
Which cultures?
Similarly Western cultures.
So Chinese Americans out, Japanese Americans out.
Here they are. Most of this entire hemisphere.
The Republican Party seems to have lost faith in the revolutionary ideal of this country. That it doesn't matter the color of your skin or what country ever your color of your hair.
No, that is not true.
Our ideals make American.
But a country like Somalia or Syria or Afghanistan, you cannot vet Individuals coming from those countries.
You were saying before that it was about culture. Now you're saying it's about vetting. So if it's about culture and it's about who's Western enough for you, to Terry's point, are we then saying that if you are from India, you are from China, you're from South Korea, you're just not Western enough? Your culture is not compatible with this country.
No,
Is that the principle?
That is not what American law says, and that's not what.
So again, I'm trying to understand how you all are trying to justify.
The president said it tonight. I actually took it down as a note. He said, people who will love our country will come here and work hard. That's who we want. I think he might add, follow our laws, assimilate into our culture. That's what's always been the ingredient for Americans who came here, whether you were my forebears who came from Scotland or Ken's who came from Italy, is you have to come to America, assimilate into American culture, work hard, take America as your own country, leave your prior country behind. That's what it means.
Can I just say that's flat out wrong, and that's utter BS. First of all,
that's what the oath
there is a
says
difference.
For new citizens.
There is a difference between coming to this country and absorbing all of the greatness of this country and the opportunity of this country and maintaining the values that you bring with you, maintaining the dignity that you bring with you. Black folk were stripped of absolutely everything. But all we had was hope and faith. We didn't come here to assimilate. We were brought here in chains. There was no assimilation. So let's get that absolutely correct. And there also is a line between talking about immigration and being outwardly racist. And what we're doing here is we're kind of beating around the bush, because what Donald Trump does with Somalians is utter racism. And if he did it one time, then we can excuse it. But he called these people filthy. He called them animals. He said all they do, and we get into this thing where we say now that we have to become westernized, that you have to come here and assimilate. No. You say that you want Norwegians. You say you want white South Africans. You call African countries shithole countries. You poo-poo on Haiti. Like, let's be extremely clear about what we're talking about in this administration. And I think that there is a refreshing, people finally, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when racists were like in the closet, but now, it's out. And I'm okay with that.
And I couldn't believe this was on CNN. I could not believe it. First of all, when the guy simply said, "Oh yeah, that's what we want," I could not believe it. And I have to give to the three black folks on that panel, I have to give them a lot of credit, because it is clear that these guys are unable to absorb how offensive, and when I talk about offensive, I'm not talking about hurt feelings, but how offensive it is for somebody who has, for a culture that has pilfered a new land, that has genocided a whole population, that has enslaved a population that goes across the world, bombing, killing, and blowing folks' heads up. A culture that has gone into Panama and killed 10,000 people and not think twice. A culture that has a president saying, if he doesn't say the right words, we're going to start dropping bombs on you. To consider pirates with little guns on the sea a subculture or a deficited culture, when the actual culture you are speaking about, and I'm talking about those that foment war, etc., and you think that's okay. And Bakari and all those on the panel, one of the reasons I'm glad I'm in independent media, I would have been very civil on that program, but at the same time, I would have told a whole lot of inconvenient truths. Inconvenient truths like there are rarely any treaties that we sign that we live up to, while we expect everybody else to live up to it. We didn't live up to the treaties we signed with the natives at the Black Hills, where when they found gold, we just went ahead and put the army in and took it. We didn't abide by the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty we signed with the Mexicans after the Mexican-American War. We didn't abide by the treaty we signed recently with the Paris Accords. We didn't continue with the treaties that we signed with Iran. I mean, think about it. We absolutely never abide by the treaties we sign when it becomes inconvenient. We sign treaties to put others under our spell, not to follow a treaty bilaterally. You want to go even further? We signed the MCP treaty with Canada and Mexico. And Trump comes in and he breaks it. And he says, I'm going to throw tariffs on. All of those things have been negotiated in treaties. We don't live by it. I mean, so it is USMCA. Thank you for that, brother. I messed it up. But my point is, folks, is we don't have the moral authority to look at the country that we despise the most in Africa or Asia. We don't have the moral integrity to be able to go up and say there's something deficient in that culture. We simply implement worse than that with a suit and a tie and a false religion. That's all we do. Bruce says, I never really understood what gaslighting was until last night. And the repubs took the gas pipe. I love the way you said that, Bruce. I love the way you said that. But the reason I'm telling you these things, guys, is because we are so uninformed, we can believe in things like capitalism. We can believe in things like exceptionalism. We can believe all these things, right? Because we are so unlearned. But when we start to tell the real stories, and look, if you want to understand why Republicans are against critical thinking, if you want to understand why they are scared people start to read books, if you want to understand why they want to control the internet, that's why. Because most people, and I repeat this all the time, most people are good. I don't care if you're Chinese, I don't care if you're an American, I don't care who you are. Most people are good, but the people that control the things, they are the ones that use everything for manipulation. LBW said this is why they edit history books too. Exactly. You nailed it. So folks, one of the reasons we do this, politics done right and this kind of stuff, and we are never going to, like I said, I used to be on CNN doing CNN reports, and I mean, there's a time that on a daily basis, we used to have clips. We would do what CNN had this report, independent reporting, where citizen journalists would go ahead and do a whole lot of reporting, and they'll put it up. And if you take a look back in the middle 2000s, I was on almost daily on a little clip. They'll have a little clip, or CNN report says this. But as we started, and it wasn't only me. There's a particular reporter out of Canada as well. As we started telling a few too many truths on mainstream media, suddenly, I wish I had my report award here, but suddenly they didn't want us anymore because we were, for free, we were telling too many truths and they couldn't handle it, right? We were talking about, when stories come up, we would start telling too many truths about stories. And they didn't like that. And they never told us to stop. They just stopped featuring it because the producers liked what we were doing. But the folks on top, those producers, not so much. CNN, remember when you got me on CNN Business Hour? Yep, I do remember that, Bruce. Oh, yeah. In fact, I used to do that a lot. Lynette says, LBW probably heard me say this before. My teachers would say, we are going off book or out and book. You know, that's a lot of teachers have to do that now, right? What these teachers would do is they'll feel out their class to see if their class has anybody that's MAGA. And if they don't have MAGA, they'll take the liberties of expanding the curriculum to actually tell the truth. Renee says Barnes & Noble just opened several bookstores. Someone said they have a lot of books that have been banned. Yeah. You know, imagine that. Imagine being in the United States and talking about banned books, right? All right, folks, I think I can take some calls right now because I played the 3 videos that I had. You can go ahead and give me a call, 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. Cheryl Elkin says, have you talked about breaking news from Cuba? I saw it. I only saw a piece of it. I don't know the whole thing. So I don't want to say something that I don't know. Hi, how you doing? Is this Bobby?
Yeah, this is Bobby.
How you doing, Bobby?
Good, good. So, Egberto, people like us, I think of a like mindset, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening, like we're frustrated, like the obvious corruption. And, I'm sure like at the presidential address, there probably wasn't one single person in that room who at least at one point was sitting there thinking about, man, I wonder how many children this guy has raped. You know what I mean? And yet they have this big smile on their face like he's just like, like this glowing figure. But what I need from you, Egberto, I was wondering if you could do this, is because I'm always so frustrated with everything. Can you just like break for a moment and give us like a vision, of like free healthcare, maybe how good it could get, basically.
Okay, I definitely will do that. Let me answer Patrick here, and I will definitely do that of what we can have. Okay. Thank you, my brother.
I appreciate it.
Patrick, come on in.
I didn't intend to interrupt you and Bobby. I was actually calling in because Bobby called in.
No. I mean, I can tie all the lines together. I am able to tie all the lines together. I just don't have the sophisticated thing that we have at the KPFT station that can separate them. So they're all of the lines come in and tie into one. Well, go ahead, my brother.
Well, Bobby called the other day about left brain, right brain, conservative, liberal, and one being under threat and the other one negotiating. And you told him that you're interested about it and that you were wondering if that was something that you're born with or inherent, or if you learn it. I remember.
I didn't have the answer. Do you have the answer?
It's a little bit of both. I always use the metaphor that evolution loads the gun and the environment pulls the trigger. So if you don't have a lot of influence, or if you don't have a good reason to act one way, you can act the other. But when pressured, you'll do what's more instinctive. You can carry prerequisites for cancer your entire life and not get it if you're not exposed to something that triggers it.
So let me ask you from what you've read. I need to ask you from what you've read, and then I want to give Bobby the answer that he asks for. From what you've read, then, are you saying that a lot of Republicans are wired to be triggered, and if they're not triggered, it's all okay, but once they get triggered, like how Donald Trump has triggered MAGA, then that comes into effect? Is that what you're saying? You read?
Under fight or flight, they're more right brain is more suspicious, and a conservative brain is more suspicious, and there's benefits from that, and there's benefits also from being the left brain, being able to cooperate and things like that. We're competing two different ways through evolution. But that's just one of several things that Bobby said that he's a good caller. I just wanted to encourage him.
Thank you, man. Let me go ahead and give Bobby the answer that he has, and then let's talk tomorrow. All right?
Sure. I don't recommend buying a new book from him. I don't recommend buying a new book from him. Buy a used book from him. But Steven Pinker wrote The Language of the Mind, and a lot of that's explained in that book. But I encourage buying it used because he ended up being in the Epstein files.
Oh God! All right, thank you, my brother.
Money.
All right, thanks, my
Have a great
man.
day.
You too. All right, you said what can I envision in healthcare? Well, it's interesting that you asked that because I just got off and just before I came on, and in fact, that's why I'm not completely prepared. I interviewed Christian Menifee, who is the congressperson in District 18 that's running against Al Green, the guy that I just interviewed. And it turns out that now I don't care which one of them win, to tell you the truth, because they both support Medicare for all or any form of universal health care. And they each have personal experience that tells me they really want to do this. And just maybe they will be a notch not to be turned by the health insurance industry. But here is how I propose that we could, the health care system that we have. First of all, we spend more than twice many countries in healthcare. I think in Canada it's 1% more or whatever, which means we can have a much better system than any one of these countries based on the amount we are used to spending already. So what would I do if I were to get, if we were to get a whole ton of progressives in? First thing that we have to realize is that this, no matter, even as we talk about healthcare, we have to talk about economy. And there are a lot of people working within this dysfunctional economic system that if we were to change it on a dime, right, a lot of people would be displaced. But then there's also the ethical problem that says we should change it on a dime so that everybody who needs healthcare now gets healthcare, even if it means all those insurance agents and all these guys are out of a job. So what's the sweet spot here? The sweet spot here is subsidies. Subsidies to all the people who are going to lose their jobs, because it's going to be millions, right? That's the first. I'm going with the economy first. That's the first thing. A lot of people will lose their jobs, but also we are going to need a lot more healthcare professional. So as these people lose their jobs, we need to incentivize them to go into physician assistant fields, nursing fields, etc. Because now that we are going to have services for absolutely every single American, or every single person, not only American, every single person on our land will be entitled to good health care. We need to have the population to take care of them. And we can fund that. The people that will suffer are the billionaires that own the insurance companies, the shareholders that are dependent on the pilfer that we execute right now on the American people. Should we feel sorry for them? No, because they base their income on having been pilfering the American people. So we don't worry about that part. We worry about employees, etc., etc. Now, how will the system work? Number one, we start with everybody has health care from birth to death. Nobody pays for health care at the location of health care. In other words, whenever you go to a doctor, no money exchanges hands at all. You just have a card. And it's similar to that in Canada right now. You have a card. There's no money exchange. You have a primary doctor that's your, that you choose, and he will be your traffic director. Because again, there's some amount of direction that will be needed. And as he will direct you to whatever specialist you need, whatever test you need, whatever. As you go through with these different set of tests or whatever, it will be taken care of based on your needs. Now, there are certain things, of course, that we'll have to put limits on. And that would be things like, well, we won't take care of plastic surgery of certain types, right? I mean, we will as a society decide what we want to cover based on how much taxes we want to pay. But those are things that can be mitigated. Those are things that can be mitigated. We no longer need Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE, Veterans Care. We don't need all these different things that institute waste in the system. We just need one plan. One plan. And that's a card that says, I am insured from life to death. Now, I'm out of time, but if you want to go into a bit more specifics, we can actually do that. By the way, folks, I put in both lists what Sister Cheryl is putting out there in the chat. So that you can sign up for the Coffee with Egberto. Coffee with Egberto. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. I'm a little bit late, but I'll pare this down some. Thank you for being here, first of all. Thank you for listening, secondly. You know what we're doing here. You know what we're doing here. We are going to make a difference. Bobby, we are going to make a difference. It's not going to happen overnight, Bobby. But we are going to make a difference because, you know, one of the things, we are not going to give up. They didn't give up. It took them 50 years to get rid of Roe v. Wade. It took them several decades to do this damage that they're doing. It's going to take us several years to clean up what they've done. But you got to start somewhere. But you got to start by understanding we are never, ever, ever going to give in to the evil they represent. Ever. So please, understand that as we build our spheres of influence, that this is a battle we intend to win. For all of us. Including for those who think they're against us. We intend to win. Anyway, folks, please support the program. How can you support the program? If you're on Substack right now, click that subscribe button. And please become a paid subscriber. That is how we fund everything that we do here. If you are not in our on Substack, if you're listening to us anywhere else, I'm putting it in the chat. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter is the way you do it. We cannot do this without you. But rest assured, there are many of us in this space, in the independent media space, and I'm trying to build as we go on. And I'm not talking about the FAW independent media. Earlier on my I'm going over a little bit. Earlier on my KPFT show, somebody called in and said they didn't go to some of these other functions some of the big guys are having because they had to pay to listen. They had to, no. I depend on you saying, I think you offer, I know you're offering everything here, the program that we're given. I have enough faith in you that I am going to support you as you give these things to enlighten us all, as we enlighten each other as well. So please go ahead and click that subscribe button if you're on Substack and subscribe. Become a paid subscriber if you can. It's very, very inexpensive and it makes a big difference. If you're not, I just put it in the other chat. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. You can email me, info@politicsdoneright.com. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. And I'm talking about ending the baby, and I didn't even set my cue up to get out of here, which I'm doing right now. I'm doing right now. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how we get out of this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.